Sturdy for 30 here, post-game podcast. Just one of the most amazing things I've seen, not necessarily uh, because of anything except the change from one half to another. I'm not sure I've seen anything like that. Illinois trails Northwestern by 15 at the half, comes out in the second half, looks like a totally different team. They made some halftime adjustments to talk about, but they win. They outscored Northwestern by 40 points in the second half, 53-13. Hold the Wildcats to 8% shooting, all while also, scoring 53 points. So it's pretty amazing. They win by 25 in a game they trailed by 15 at half. Have you ever seen anything like that, Mike Cagley from Illini Guys?
Yeah, I haven't. And I kept thinking to myself, is this Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, or is this Bruce Banner and the Hulk? Because the first half was one of the worst halves, kind of had a flashback to the Bruce Weber era. And then in the second half, it was just Katie bar the door. Let's show you how bad we can beat a team. Amazing.
Yeah, it was very impressive second half. Yeah, the one concern is this team has to be able to do that for 40 minutes. And obviously you're not going to play like you're not going to beat teams by 40 points, but the effort and energy needs to be there for 40 minutes if they want to compete. And I think that's probably the difference between Gonzaga, Baylor, and then Illinois on that next tier. And when Illinois brings it for 40 minutes, I think they can compete with anybody in the country, and they showed that in the second half. Is there as you kind of look at this, I thought that obviously Kofi Coburn was the guy in the second half who just totally dominated. There were a lot of other pieces, the guys who contributed, but Kofi Coburn was just totally different play in the first half, fumbling passes, not finishing around the rim, and in the second half he was just dominant. I mean, ends up putting up a double-double, just complete domination.
Yeah, when you watch what he did, he does something that's kind of interesting because not only does he score a point, score a basket in the paint, get you 2 points, forces the defense to react to him, but when he starts throwing down those, what I call thunder dunks, not only do you just get the points, but the team actually gets that emotional lift that they carry into the defense at the other end. And I thought that was something that Kofi just he kind of it was like an avalanche. The Kofi started a snowball at the top of the mountain. By the time it was down to the bottom of the mountain, there was snow everywhere, and the Wildcats had no chance. And I really think he does a nice job of doing a couple things at once there, just by the way he throws those things down and the way he pumps up his teammates.
Yeah, definitely. Tons of energy in the second half. The bench mob was amazing. I mean, you had from the whole bench. The Illini, again, Illinois comes back from 15 down at half, wins by 25 against Northwestern, and it was pretty amazing. I thought the halftime adjustments. We looked at. I talked to Brad Underwood at post game. We got in the press conference and got to ask him about that. And the two main adjustments they made, I think, obviously energy was an adjustment that the players made, but from a coaching standpoint, on the defensive end, they changed. They had been really, I think, concerned about they've been switching things, trying to not give up threes, Northwestern. They went back to trying to just guard your man. We're going to hedge. We're going to recover.
Yes.
We're going to just guard our guy, and we got to fight through those screens. And they went back to that defense. And obviously, Northwestern missed some shots, and it was a snowball going downhill for them. But Illinois did a much better job that way. And we've seen them do that before. It's not the first time they've done that. As they struggled on defensively with schemes and different things early in the season, they went back to this. And so this is the second time they've done that. The defense, obviously, and from your perspective, don't you think the defense is something this team actually didn't do well early, but now they can kind of hang their hat on that a little bit?
Yeah, but I do think what you're saying is true. It was frustrating in the first half to watch them switch because Kofi got hung out on the outside a couple times. We had some matchups that you just didn't like to see. And then, as you can imagine, when you see players in a matchup they're uncomfortable with, they start trying to inch kind of closer to one another so they can pull a switch. And they looked a little bit out of sync defensively. And then in the second half, when it was kind of like, that's my guy, that's who I'm staying with, all of a sudden, the almost like the sense of accountability was there. And you saw them really jump into that and really kind of attack their man versus play cautiously. So instead of trying to avoid a mistake, they were trying to stop somebody. And I thought that made a big difference for those Northwestern shooters, because, you know, when you go a whole half and you make one field goal, one 2-pointer, I should say, and one 3-pointer, and that's your output for a half, every shot was contested. And that was a big change from what we saw in the first half.
Yep, no question. Offensively, obviously, Northwestern used the zone in the first half. 3-2 zone gave Illinois fits after they got out to the early lead against the man-to-man. Chris Collins did a good job switching to the zone. But in the second half, he came out for I think he was planning on just 1 or 2 possessions going man-to-man just to try, because he figured Underwood had plays drawn up against the zone. They come out man-to-man, Illinois scores. Illinois gets transition, then gets outrun, and they get stops, and Northwestern's turn it over. It's kind of crazy. But against the zone, they changed what they were doing. In the first half, Underwood talked about it. They were trying to spread them out. They wanted to get spread, wanted to have guys in the corners outside, and then leave Kofi or Georgie, whoever it is in the middle, to really be able to work in there and do some sealing and screening and throw that lob over the top. There were a lot of options, but they threw bad passes. They dropped passes. They didn't catch them. They struggled to make the top to wing pass. And we talked about that. Actually, you and I talked about that on Twitter. The Northwestern wing length does give smaller guards trouble because they get out in that passing lane and it's hard to make a direct pass. So you kind of got to put some air on it. Once you put air under it, they can recover and contest that shot. The other option is, though, maybe a bounce pass, right? I mean, those are okay. I think in basketball, you can throw a bounce pass. And you saw Curbelo make the one thread the needle bounce pass to Coburn, and he gets the dunk that one time. But I think the other thing in the second half, the passes, is old Mike LaTulip, who's going to be our guest this weekend on 30 for 30. He mentioned fake a pass, make a pass. And my brother Dave Sturdy coached for a long time, and that was like his mantra against the zone: fake a pass, make a pass. So, and Illinois did that. Use ball fakes, get the defense moving, and then you can throw it where you want to throw it. You've coached for a while. Have you seen a team change get that much better against the zone?
Well, I will tell you what, when I was writing in the column for IlliniGuys.com, the first half, the number one thing that reminded me of is I felt like I was back in a time machine and I was watching Tom Crean's number 1 seeded Indiana team who couldn't figure out the 2-3 zone against Syracuse in the 2013 NCAA tournament. And, you know, they couldn't get to the right place. They couldn't get the ball to the right place. And I think what you said about the passing was interesting, because I don't think they did a single fake. I think they looked at who they were going to pass to and threw the ball to that person every time in the first half. And a ball, like you said, a ball fake, a pump fake, a little bit of misdirection. And we saw those things in the second half, and it made a huge difference. And, you know, for people who are coaching AAU or people who are playing AAU, sometimes it's funny how the little things that you think your coach is just droning on and on about really do make a big difference. You know, pump fake and a jump shot fake, you know, those type of things, those little things make a difference on offense. And certainly Northwestern didn't know what hit them.
Yeah, it was definitely a complete dominance in the second half. So Illinois now, this is the best start in the Big Ten they've had since 2005. They're 5-1 in league play. They're just right behind Michigan, who leads. And Illinois and Michigan only play one time, and that's in February at Michigan in Ann Arbor. So that's going to be obviously a long way to go to get there. But Illinois is in a good position. They've got some winnable games coming up again, Maryland at home and so forth. So they just have to keep taking it, I think, game by game. I think this team, if they win Sunday, which, you know, when we'll talk about that later, but if they win Sunday, I feel like they're going to be back in the top 10 where they belong. And they have the talent to be a top 10 team. And when they put it to 40 minutes, they're a Final Four threat for sure. And so we'll just kind of have to keep an eye on this team. We'll be back for our post game on Sunday night, post game against Maryland, and we'll talk about that one. But Mike, appreciate you coming on. This was fun, and hopefully we get to see more like the second half, less like the first half going forward.
Yeah, I'm all for playing 40 whole minutes of a game and seeing just what this team is capable of doing. I think it'll be pretty impressive.
Actually had a reporter actually text me. He said, "Have you ever had a halftime?" One of the guys who covers our high school team. He said, "Have you ever had a speech like that at halftime?" And I said, no. One time we were getting no hit for 4 innings and scored 14 in the 5th inning. And he said, "Yeah." He said, "I said I did kick a bucket. Maybe that was it. So maybe Underwood did kick a trash can. We know that he has a propensity to do that in the past. So maybe that was the key. Who knows?" But anyway, so hey, thanks, Mike. IlliniGuys.com. And we'll have these videos up next week, and look forward to continue to do these post game and podcasts with you. Thanks for coming on.
Perfect. Thank you, sir, Brad. Have a good evening.